everyone. Welcome to Life with Simin YouTube channel. Some of you may know me as YVR Foodie Story, and today's a video to talk about why I changed my channel name. So YVR Foodie Story started way back in 2021. For those who followed me way back then, you know that I actually had another name before YVR Foodie Story, and that was Food for the Spirit. Now, where Food for the Spirit began is I was at a time in my faith journey where I was really reflecting on how I came to my faith and what my faith meant to me. And I wanted a space to document my devotionals. And so I also really love food. And I had this idea that I would create food posts while sharing my faith journey and my devotionals and the Bible verses that were speaking to me. So that became Food for the Spirit. And that's actually how I started on Instagram way back in 2020. If you remember, 2020 was the pandemic, and it was a time that I felt my loneliness. I was very lonely because I had just moved to Vancouver. I'm originally from Vancouver Island, and moving to a big city was a very big transition for me. I left my home, I left my family, I left my friends, and at the time, I really only knew a few people here in Vancouver. And this might be a story for another time, but Vancouver took a while for me to get more familiar with, and now it's been more than 6 years, and I still don't know if I can call Vancouver my home. Maybe a little bit more than before. That's for another video. So back to why I want to talk about the change to my name is that it was a significant change. So Food for the Spirit quickly became a space that I wanted to talk about other topics. And I then realized that all of my content and what I want to talk about surrounded stories, because I really believe that stories holds power, and that comes back to a little bit about me. Is I lived for a long time pleasing other people, and I let other people write the story about me. I let other people shape the story about who I was. And so by creating YVR Foodie Story, I was bringing that narrative back to myself, that I am the person that will write my own story and tell my own story, because that is the truth. And I didn't want anyone else to shape my story for me anymore. This kind of stems to some stereotypes that I was put in, being an Asian Canadian growing up in a place where there weren't many people that looked like me. And so there's a lot of assumptions made about me. And I, for a very long time, molded myself to fit those stereotypes and fit those assumptions about me. And then it got to a point where I just completely lost who I was. And I fell into this very dark mental space. And while I was doing YVR Foodie Story, I had started to get these collaborations, if you will, from local businesses that reached out and say, hey, do you want to come and talk about the product, whether it was food or a service, in exchange for a free service, a free meal. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. And I wasn't so sure about it in the beginning, but then I connected with other people in this space that was doing it, and I made some friends, and they told me, yes, this is how it works, and I kind of started doing that. And then that then led me into going into an agency, and you might have heard of this agency. It's called Date Night BC. I'm still working with them, less so now, but I was one of their first content creators that was actually working with Date Night BC. And I still remember that was my very first time getting interviewed and the whole process, and I wasn't really sure what I was doing. And then it dawned on me that I can actually be my own business and I can actually pitch myself. But it didn't really work out that well. And so most of my clients and the work I was getting was from Day Night BC, which I'm very, very grateful for, and I'm still very grateful for them. So at that time, it worked well with my life stage. I was in a relationship. Now I'm in a marriage, I should clarify. So I was in my dating era at that time. And then in 2023 to 2024, I started to feel like Why Your Foodie Story was kind of holding me back because I didn't really want to talk about food only. And in fact, I actually didn't want to do too much about the food scene anymore due to some health concerns. And so I was going back and forth. I tried other names like Simin Tries It. Anyone remember that time? It was a very short time. And it didn't really sit well with me, didn't click with me. This name, Simin Tries It, this felt weird. So then I scrapped it. I went back to YVR Foodie Story. And then I became a mom. And I was like, oh no, now where do I put my motherhood content? And even more so, the name YVR Foodie Story did not sit well with me. It just didn't make sense to have the word foodie in my name when I felt like I wasn't really doing food content anymore. And then I went back and forth on, okay, well, what should this name be? And then I started thinking about, okay, especially becoming a mother, one thing that I really wanted to focus on, and I'm still working on, is going back to who I am and living life to the fullest through the challenges. Because motherhood comes with challenges, but there's also lots of joys. And so I really wanted to talk about that. And then I started to go into a blog. And then I did a separate page, and it was called Mom Life with Simin or something like that. And then I thought, well, I'm not just a mom. Of course, mom is going to be my title, and I can't wait till the day that my own child would call me mom. And then later on, it's going to be like, mom, 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 mom. I know that. But I decided, okay, what if I just call it Life with Simin? Because it's just life. Like, I just want to talk about life. And I've always held on to this value of mine that if I'm going to be online showing up, I want to be showing up as authentically as possible. Now, what I learned is authenticity doesn't mean sharing everything. It just means that if I choose to share it, that I will share it honestly. And so that's also been a journey on what does it mean to show up authentically. And I'm really, really thankful for the community that has shown me that authenticity back and the vulnerability that I see and that I've connected with. I see all of your messages. I read all of your messages and the chats that we've had. And what's amazing is that suddenly these strangers on the internet are not quite strangers anymore. And we made a genuine connection. And I know we made each other's day a little bit brighter. And then I realized that's what I want to do. That's why I'm on here. And so Life with Simin stuck, and here we are. If you are still watching at the end of this video, I really want to say thank you for coming along this journey with me. I know I've changed so much, and I will continue to evolve. So I hope that you will continue to stick around and see what more I have for you. So next up is going to be content from our Japan trip. I can't wait to share more about that. But I also want to continue to talk more about the content creation journey. So yeah, there's a lot I want to talk more about that and kind of how I went into it, what I see as advice that I think I've tried and didn't really work, or what I've tried and actually worked. And I really want to talk about this from somebody who's actually lived it and had that experience. And I'm not here to say that you're going to get rich overnight. I'm not here to tell you to get my course or anything like that. I just want to share my own personal experience of how it's been and what it's like. Maybe bring you guys behind the scenes of that journey as well. So yeah, as well as motherhood, I'm still not sure how much I want to share, just because I do very much value my daughter's privacy and my family's privacy, and more I don't know how to film without showing them too much. So I think what I've really enjoyed is continuing to talk about it as a topic, answering your questions, chatting with you all about your motherhood journey, supporting you, cheering for each other, making a safe space to ask any questions and not feel like it's silly. So I have something called a Mom Village channel on my Instagram, and that is a local group of moms. So if you're in the Vancouver Burnaby area and beyond, but Greater Vancouver, if you will, area, then what I like to do there is share events and activities and just any topics related to motherhood that may interest other mothers in the area, and invite them to join. And that's also what I hope to do too, is go to more of these events and support these mothers. A lot of them are mothers that are putting their time and effort and volunteering to make these events happen, so that more mothers can feel connected and not feel so isolated. Because that was one thing that I'm really grateful for, is in my postpartum journey I did not feel isolated, because there were so many opportunities for me to connect with other moms, and you need that, I think, especially as a new mom. So that's there for you if you want to join Mom Village on my Instagram. And then, yeah, we'll see where this takes me. And I'll see you in the next video.